Some people wake up and decide they're feeling a certain outfit. I wake up and decide I'm feeling a certain PA town. And today I woke up and was feeling Lititz, PA. It's not far from me, and it is the most adorable town. Oh, and by the way, I got us a tour guide, so let's go.
1 hour later.
We've arrived. Wait until you guys see this. The cutest town. You will love it.
We're standing at the town square right now, which is actually, if you look, it's a triangle, not a square.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay. And for 99 years, you had to be a Moravian to live here from 1756 until 1855. And a Moravian is actually the oldest Protestant denomination. They actually precede Martin Luther.
Wow.
So the founder of the town was a gentleman named Count Nicholas von Zinzendorf, who was a traveling preacher from Germany. He also founded Bethlehem, Nazareth, okay, and Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So there's other Moravian settlements out there. Today, obviously, in Lititz, it's welcome to all different kinds of religions and, churches and so forth. But for 99 years, you had to be a Moravian to live in the downtown area. And I'll explain all that as we go along here. It was a closed community all the way up until 1855. Behind us is the Lititz Springs Hotel. It was originally built in 1764 and known as the Zom Anker, or the sign of the anchor. Again, it was a closed Moravian town back then. The first innkeeper was a gentleman named Brother Andrew Horn. Back then, males were brother, females were sister. So, Brother Cory, Sister Anna, whatever. That's how they were addressed. They were very religious. Later on, the town opened up, and it was the name was changed to Lititz Springs Hotel. Then in 1930, it was renamed again to the General Sutter Hotel. General Sutter might be a familiar name to you. We'll talk about him in more detail in a couple minutes. And then just recently in 2020, the name was reverted back to Lititz Springs Hotel. There was 3 different additions to this 1764 structure. The original foundation, which is stone, is underneath. This is brick, so this would have been 1800s. This was added on later, okay? So a lot of this is kind of new, but it still kind of maintains a lot of its original charm. You see the little decal on the window? 1764, that's when it was founded, again, as the sign of the anchor, or Zom Anker. So over here, I mentioned John Sutter. There's a plaque here. This used to be in the patio, the courtyard here. You can read about him. He's sort of a polarizing character in recent years. Gold was discovered on his land in California during the California Gold Rush. The government ended up taking his land by way of what they considered to be eminent domain. So basically the rest of his life, he fought to get land and gold back from his land, what he thought it was owed. So what brought him from Sacramento to Lititz, Pennsylvania, from one end of the coast to the other? Well, a couple things. First of all, he could be closer to Washington, D.C. to travel back and forth to fight Congress. Secondarily, his granddaughter attended Linden Hall School for Girls, which we'll learn about. It's one of the oldest private girls' schools in the nation, so we wanted to be closer to her. He actually lived in this brick house there across the street. Okay, he built that house, and when it was built, it only cost $10,000 in the late 1800s. Okay, it cost $10,000.
I wish.
And it was also the first home in Lititz to have indoor plumbing and hot and cold water. There's little plaques on the sides of the buildings. You can see the date and many times what the building was originally. By the way, this is Bull's Head. You've been to Lititz a couple times, so you've probably been here, right?
I haven't. No,
oh, okay.
This is my first time going into town. I'm so excited.
Oh, well, you were at Ena's, but that was down there,
down
right?
there.
That wasn't
I haven't,
actually.
Been here
oh my
yet.
God! Okay.
I know. This is my first time.
Wow. All right. So this is an authentic British pub founded by a gentleman from Liverpool. Great fish and chips. So this building was the home at one time of Zook's bookstore, as you can see, 1877.
And it's Zook.
Zook, not
yes,
Zook.
yes.
Zook. Yep. Nice and Dutchy there for you.
Zook's Books.
Right. John Zook sold newspapers here, Valentines, stationery, and bicycles. There's some sort of funny punchline there. I just can't think of it at the time. Down this lane here, if you look back there, there's a brick building. That was the Express Printing Company. He printed Lititz's very first newspaper there, called the Sunbeam. Later that folded, and he started another paper called the Lititz Express. So he sold, this was a retail shop here and bookstore. Back there was actually where they printed the newspaper. And a lot of people have taken our walking tour, people that have lived here for decades and lived here for generations and born and raised here, and they never notice. I always tell people to look up In this case, I'm going to tell you to look down because imprinted on the cement, if you look closely, express printing, there's a better view of it there.
What?
A little Easter egg.
Oh my gosh, there's some right here too.
Yeah,
Very
yeah. There's
cool.
little Easter eggs all around the town.
Wow.
So
this is original?
that's original, yeah.
That's so cool.
I mean, it's kind of wearing away, but you get the idea.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. And there it is. Back there.
That's now a shop. But
Okay.
that was the express printing. That's where they actually printed the newspaper.
What shop is it now?
It's called, there's a couple shops in there. Zalmonker Alley.
Oh, okay.
They show like, see the little sunflower
Yeah,
things, like
yeah.
metal.
Oh, like the
things,
little trinkets, yeah.
Trinkets and like little wind chimes and
Yeah,
stuff.
I love that.
This big brick building here on the left, it says the Tide House. It's a brewery. It was built in 1900 by a gentleman named Miles Rudy, and he basically built it as a gift to the community. He built it for a cost out of his pocket. Over the years, it's been many things. There was a movie theater up on the second floor. There was a YMCA. There was a Masonic lodge. There was a funeral parlor, a bookstore, a tea room. Now it's a brewery, craft brewery there on the first floor. Second floor and third floor has offices. So this is sort of another Easter egg here. A couple things. This is the Frank Ford building. I'll start there. Frank Ford was a prominent U.S. businessman in Lititz. He did a lot for the community, so he got a plaque here. But way back in the 1700s, it was known as the Lichtenthauer House, as you can see, 1797. It was a carriage house and a carriage shop. And the way we know that is, if you look closely, okay, you can see an arch. See the arch? Now most of it's gone, but that would have come the whole way through this frontage. Okay, hi. They, of course, back then, it wouldn't have been a paved road. This was a dusty road, a bumpy road, but it was even. There was no sidewalks, so they backed up carriages right into here on Main Street and fixed carriages. This was a carriage shop at one point.
Oh my god. That is way cool. Wow.
This is the second year we've done walking tours, and like, especially this time of year, we're really busy. We're giving tours almost every single day. So across the street, this green building, it's called Main Men. It's a vintage clothing boutique. Main men on the left, main ladies on the right. Anyway, so this was the Jacob Grider House. Back then when Lititz was a closed community, everyone had a different trade. There was no competition. You could only have one of each trade in the community. And if it's something that you could buy or sell from your neighbor, you had to buy it within the community, okay? You couldn't go outside. So they kind of got the hang of shopping local long before it was a thing. His job was the tanner. He tanned the hide and the leather in the community. And a lot of these buildings, the shop was out front and the family lived upstairs. Now his actual factory was behind this building. The chemicals that he used to dye the leather smelled so bad, he was actually asked to move his shop out of town, east of town, outside of the outskirts.
I bet it did.
Right around where Ina's pierogi shop is.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
We
so-
love Ina's, yeah.
As we get closer to what's called Moravian Church Square, you'll see they'll get older and older. Some of these have new facades, some of them have stucco, some of them have brick, some of them have
Right.
log, some of them have stone. We're coming up at 48 East Main Street. This is now a consignment shop. It's called Matthew 25. But hi. Long time ago, it was known as Doster's Department Store. That's when Doster started it, okay? It was a place, of course, Lititz was open to everyone by then. It was a place for like the Walmart of the time.
Right.
Long before that, this was the home of a gentleman named Matthias Schutte. And he was a chip hat maker. He made chip hats. Now, what you ask is a chip hat? Think of the straw hats that Amish men wear, and you've got a chip hat. His hats were so popular, he was one of the few Moravians that was able to export outside of the town. Actually sold his products all up and down the East Coast. Should I be looking at you or the camera?
No, look at whatever you want to do.
So again, I tell everyone to look up. You never know what you're going to see if you look on top of the building across the street.
Yes.
The original Hotel Sturgis sign from 1867. This was built by Edwin Sturgis, who was a Civil War veteran. And even though we started out at the hotel at the corner, and then here's a hotel 1 block away, again, he opened in 1867, so Lititz would have been open for over a decade to travelers. Both of them had so much business, there wasn't any unfriendly competition. They had enough visitors for both. Later on, where the Purple Robin Reserve Art Gallery is now, that was the Lititz Community Movie Theater. From 1935 until 1964, they showed the classics like monster movies, Hard Day's Night, Wizard of Oz, Citizen Kane, you name it. Eventually it was refurbished. If you go inside that shop, it's called the Purple Robin Reserve, go in the store and you look up, around the edging of the ceiling is original paintings from when the movie theater was built. That was the original lobby to the movie theater. Now where they would have shown the movies, called the auditorium in the back, has been since torn down, but there is remnants, another neat Easter egg there. Inside the Purple Robin Reserve, you see the original trim paintings. That was done by a gentleman who was from Belgium. His name was Frans de Merlet. Across the street here, the white building with the, I'll call them purple shutters, that was the home of Joseph Sturgis. He was cousins to Edwin Sturgis, who we just learned about. And Mr. Sturgis here on this side of Main Street was the community potter. He made redware pottery for his neighbors. He was a very lucrative business. Another one of my favorite houses, which is on this side, it's 66 East Main Street.
Okay.
It's the white one here. It's one of the most historic houses in town, easily.
This is like what I want my home to look like. This is amazing.
That's awesome. Built 1762, seventh home built in Lititz. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. This was the home of a very popular bank at the time called the Lititz Deposit Bank. Actually, the very first bank in Lititz. Back then, the town was spelled L-I-T-I-Z. They only added the second T in the name in 1880. There's a fun fact for you.
Wow, why did they add the second T?
Because of the post office made them change it to sound more like it sounds.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. But originally...
Lititz.
Lititz, yeah.
Lititz. Oh,
Yep.
wait, that's how they said it? Lititz?
I think, or Lititz. I'm not sure.
That's interesting.
Right. So this was actually built by William Werner in 1762. He was the tooth bleeder or a local dentist. Later, he was a cooper or barrel maker. The dormers are original. The log underneath is original. The street at Lititz Eye Care. That was the home of Christian Hall. He made tall case clocks, or what are known as grandfather clocks, in the community. In fact, if you take a look here, it's kind of a neat, again, an Easter egg. The archway at the top of the doorway kind of looks like a grandfather clock.
Yeah, it does.
Fun fact.
Wow.
So anyway, what does that have to do with the house behind us? Christian Hall made a special two-faced clock. One faces to the north, one faces to the south.
Okay.
And he made it for his neighbor, William Werner here, and it's still in the wall in the home here.
No way.
One faces north, one faces south. It doesn't work anymore, but that's okay. I said earlier how this was the home of Lititz's very first bank. The original safe to the bank is still in the wall in the kitchen of this house.
So
yeah.
what is here now?
It's a private home.
Oh, okay.
It's a
So
private
someone,
home.
I was going to say, can
Someone
I go
lives
in?
here.
I guess I can't go in.
Let's knock.
Excuse me. No.
Yeah, because I kind of know the people.
Oh,
So
you do?
They told me to knock.
Really?
Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
What?
We'll see if they let us in. Maybe no one's home. There's a package here.
This is amazing. Oh my God.
I don't think they're home.
Yeah.
Sometimes they let us in. But-
Oh my-
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Look at these floors.
Oh, you're in for a treat, Kat.
Very cool.
Thanks for visiting.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for having us. Thanks. This is so cool.
That was amazing.
That was amazing.
I know. I cannot believe, like,
that house is like,
I know.
that's like you're living in history. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
yeah, most of our tour guides, like I said, have just kind of got to see. That was the first time I got to see it.
Wow, that's really cool. I feel honored.
Yeah. Where the candy shop is now, Candyology on the left. That was the home of a bake shop, okay, by a Mr. Rauch, R-A-U-C-H. And, he baked bread and cakes and pies, as one does. Around 1850s or so, he wanted to learn how to bake. He was about a 16-year-old boy at the time, and so he took him in, taught him how to bake bread and so forth. And they started experimenting with pretzels. And the young boy's name was none other than Julius Sturgis, who you might have heard about, which we'll see where he began commercially down the street later on the tour. Pretzels are well known in central Pennsylvania, Lancaster County, and beyond. And the oldest pretzel bakery is right here in Lititz. It was founded in 1861 by Julius Sturgis, but he started to learn pretzel baking in the basement of that building. And cool thing is, now you can't see it, it's off limits, but the original ovens are still down in the basement.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
So Lititz Pretzels actually technically got their start here instead of further down the street.
Interesting.
So you've never been to Sturgis either.
But I think I passed the pretzel place because I was
Probably.
salivating as I was.
If you were
I'm like,
did
what
you
is
come
that?
this way, I guess?
I did, yes. You got to talk about that because all the PA junkies talk about Wilbur
So Wilbur
chocolate.
chocolate is amazing. It was actually It's kind of hard to get in some areas around the country, but people around here in Lancaster County love Wilbur Buds, which looks very closely like a Hershey Kiss. But fun fact, the Wilbur Bud was actually invented before the Hershey Kiss.
Wilbur's the OG, okay? Not Hershey.
That's right.
And I've never had a Wilbur Bud.
Oh my gosh. Original stone on the first floor. The second floor has been redone. You see the tin roof, you see the stained glass. That was the home of Dr. Frederick Otto, O-T-T-O. He was the very first pharmacist in Lancaster County, right there in that shop.
Oh, wow.
Now there's little different stores and boutiques in there. But that was the very first pharmacy in Lancaster County, right there by Dr. Frederick Otto.
This is just too cute.
Yeah, this is an old-fashioned ice cream shop.
So cute.
Yeah, this is called Isabella's. And this is probably from like, early 1900s.
Okay.
Picture this, because this is a big mind-blowing moment. Lititz has more originally standing colonial structures than Williamsburg, Virginia. And Lititz was the very first designated historic district in Pennsylvania. So, a lot of history.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
So, and speaking of history, this building here is so cool. Many reasons. It's a rare example of stone, brick, and wood and log. You have about 300 years of architecture here. It's the John Phillips house, built in 1796. Who was John Phillips? He was the community tailor. He made the clothing for the Moravians. Just about, not quite 10 years ago, maybe around 2007, they took away the stucco and exposed the original log here. So it's just a gorgeous building. It's now apartments upstairs and a real estate agency here. But this was the home of John Phillips. And he had 12 kids, by the way.
12
so 14,
kids.
14 people, 12 kids, and then mom and dad.
Talk about a baker's dozen.
Right. Stone house. A lot of these, haven't been changed in many, many years. I don't know if you can see the plaque on the bottom left, 1757. Yes. It's called the Warden House. Even though Lititz was a closed town, they were peaceful, they were religious. You still had to have some sort of peacekeeper. It wasn't like a police officer. It was somebody who sort of like settled disputes between neighbors. And that's where the warden of the town lived. To the right of it is another one of my favorite homes. I could talk about this for an hour straight. If you get a chance, you can read all the wording on the plaque there on the left. Oh, cool. This is known as the Pilger House, built by a gentleman named John George Klein, who was an early settler of Lititz. Later on, it was the organ shop owned by a gentleman named David Tannenberg, who built over 40 organs for the colonies in the 1700s. 9 of which still exist. 2 are here in Lititz in the Moravian Church. Later on, it was an apartment building, but before the apartment building, it was a school for girls. It was called Sunnyside College for Girls. This was during the Civil War. The headmaster that ran this school was a little eccentric. His name was Julius Beckler. And we're going to learn about another girls' school. I mentioned it earlier, Linden Hall. They had a fierce competition between this school and the school 2 blocks down the road. So crazy, in fact, that Beckler, at least in his own mind, who, remember, was the headmaster here, he thought that if his building could be taller than Linden Hall, it would be better. So he went ahead and installed that widow's walk way at the top, and for a short time, at least in his own mind, he was taller and better than Linden Hall, until Linden Hall came along and built a widow's walk on the top of their building. Then suddenly their building was taller, and then he closes the school. It was only a private girls' school for about 4 or 5 years. Sunnyside College for Girls. Now it's condos and apartments. They renovated it in 2008, and they just did a tremendous job.
How much do those apartments run?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Pretty penny, if you know what I'm saying.
Never mind.
This is the place where, remember how I said you had to buy things from your neighbors?
Right.
If you couldn't buy it from your neighbors, you bought it at the store. Things like spices and textbooks, paper, things like that. It was not run as a business venture. It was sort of run to provide the townspeople the things that they needed, that they couldn't buy from their neighbors. Next to that is the 1854 Wooley's store, another general store that came later than the Congregational store. Mr. Woolley made a ton of money, and here's why. He was at the right place at the right time with this store. 1854, that's a key date. 1 year later, 1855, Lititz would open up to non-Moravians. So suddenly, 1 year after 1854, people were pouring in. They needed supplies. They didn't have to buy them from their neighbors anymore. So they all flocked to Wooley's store, and he made a ton of money. This is a Johannes Mueller house built in 1792, starting with the wood structure on the left. That is the oldest standing home in Lititz. It was built by a gentleman named John George Klein in 1740. Johannes Mueller comes along 52 years later in 1792 and builds the stone structure. Mueller was the town dyer, so that was his job. He dyed the clothes for the community. John Phillips made the clothes, Mueller dyed the clothing. He lived here with his family, his kids. He also had an apprentice. Okay, the apprentice would come from another Moravian town, would learn the skill or the trade of the person he was living with, in this case, learning how to dye clothing. And then he would go off. Because there was already a dyer there, he couldn't do it, right? So he had to move to another town. This building and the one next to it is all part of our footprint, the Lititz Historical Foundation. We do give guided tours of the Mueller house here every hour. Okay. The building here to the right is our gift shop and museum. If you have time, we can go there. This is the Christian Schropp house, built 1 year later in 1793. Schropp was the town nailsmith. He also played the organ, remember the Tannenberg organ in the Moravian church that we're about to see? And he was also a schoolmaster. We took over the property, getting back to the Mueller house in 1961, as the shirt says. It should somewhere. Yeah, found it 16. Yeah. And then we took over the Schropp house in the early 90s. Now, where those ladies are coming out of is our gardens. It's an event space. We have weddings back there. We have outdoor concerts. You're welcome to go back there. It's open to the public, basically from dawn to dusk. Okay. We have fundraisers back there, a wine whiskey festival, and we have about, counting weddings, about 20 to 25 events back there every year. Yeah.
Cory, did I ever ask you how long you've been here? Or did you tell me?
So I was born and raised here. I've been with the foundation since 2008. And in January of this year, they actually hired me full time.
Wow, congrats!
Yeah.
They are very lucky, very lucky.
So now I do events and fundraising and social media marketing.
That's awesome.
Follow people like Pennsylvania Junkie and bring them out and give them a tour.
I love it. This is amazing. This is like heaven on earth.
Normally we go this way, but if you don't mind, we're going to go up and then just down around. So this is Church Square. We met at the modern town square. Right. But back then, this was the center of activity. Everything revolved around the Moravian church there. Okay. That was built in 1787. The building right in front of us is very historic. This was known as the Brothers' House. This is where the men basically went before church. Then they gathered in the church and sat on the right. The women, the sister's house, I'll get back to the sister's house. I know I'm kind of jumping around. That's okay. To the left of the church, and the women would come in from that door and sit on the left. So they sat by gender. They didn't sit together by families. They sat, okay, women on the left, men on the right. Brothers' House is really historic. First of all, between 1777 and 1778, it was a makeshift Revolutionary War hospital. There's one in Valley Forge, and there's a few others around. But on the third floor, you'll see the plaque here, 110 soldiers died here, unfortunately. There was not enough doctors. Sickness broke out. They came from Germantown to convalesce, and like I said, 110 of them died. One of the doctors that was taking care of the patients here was a man named Dr. William Brown, who wrote the very first pharmacopoeia in the colonies, or medical journal, basically, was written right here, Dr. William Brown. So that's the Brothers' House. So the Brothers' House, there's ghost stories attached to it. I want to show you, I don't think we can go inside, and usually on the walking tours we don't even really talk about it, but because you're here, I want to show you this little stone building. It's the only one like it in the entire United States. It's a corpse house.
What?
Yep.
Stop.
It was built in 1786,
Stop.
1 year before the church. They stored bodies in here before burial. This is, of course, also on the ghost tour.
Stop this right now.
Yeah.
Oh my
You
God.
see the little plaque there?
This.
See if it's open. Probably isn't. No, it's usually closed. So anyway, like a Kapelkin or corpse house.
Wow.
Believe it or not, they used this until 1930.
What?
And you can film inside the screen.
Yeah,
window
that's what I was
there if you want
wondering.
to. You can't see much. You can see old cooling
Maybe
boards.
that's a better view.
Yeah, you might want to just
Corpse house, guys.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is. Wow. So, oh my God, Cory, this is so creepy. I want to go in there.
Yeah, so we actually go in during the ghost tour.
Oh my God.
And you can see, if you look up the top, the little window, with the hole, it's like a funnel. That actually helps maintain air temperature in here.
Okay.
And it's hard to see, but the hole facing us is actually a lot bigger than the hole in the back. Okay.
Wow.
And what they would do to have a cross breeze come in here, they would open up this door would have opened up too, so they would have had a cross breeze.
Wow.
But yeah, people that are into architecture and historians come from all over the country to look at the corpse house. It's the only one standing left in America.
This is unbelievable.
1786.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
So again, this is the church. There was a really bad fire here in 1957. It took out the whole top and the spire. You good? Oh my God.
This is classic me, Cory.
Okay.
I'm serious. Told
That's
you.
all right.
Be prepared.
No-
Be
no
prepared
problem.
for the worst.
Nope.
Wow, look at this door.
No, it's closed. But
Is this original? This is.
yeah, probably this is.
like
Yeah. The top, like I said, was lost in a fire.
Okay.
But they rebuilt it. The Moravians always took copious notes. So here's another view. We might want to go down this way
Yeah,
to see a better
sure.
view of the spire.
Wow. It's amazing.
The one that you can't see right now, but we'll see soon,
Right.
is all part, and there's buildings behind there too, all part of Linden Hall, which is one of the oldest continuously operating girls' schools. As you can see, the sister's house, that's original stone. That was built same year as the brother's house, but the brother's house and the church have stucco. If you were to take away stucco, you would see stone. I'm glad they didn't put stucco on it.
Yeah.
Why they stuck at the brother's house, I don't know. I've seen old photos with that. It's probably happened around 1920
Yeah.
or so. Real quick, while we're talking about Linden Hall, if you recall with the Sunnyside College for Girls, remember the Widow's Walk? Well, there's the Widow's Walk that Linden Hall built. Remember that put the girls college out of business?
Yes.
So Linden Hall's probably most famous resident or student was B. Arthur. She attended school here in 1942. Unfortunately, she was kicked out. Rumor is that she snuck alcohol into little perfume bottles.
Not saying it would be me.
Not saying right. Not saying there's anything wrong
I didn't
with
say
that.
anything, okay?
So we'll get a better view of this here in a minute. That is the Mary Dixon Chapel. That was all sourced with local sandstone just north of Lititz here.
Okay.
It's kind of a sad story associated with it. There was a young girl that attended school here. Mary Dixon, of course, was her name. She attended school here. She lived in nearby Berks County. She dies of tuberculosis at age 19. Her father, who's very, very wealthy, wanted to do something in her honor. So he decided to lay the foundation and build this chapel in her honor. It was began in 1883. Unfortunately, he dies soon after. He doesn't get to see it completed. And eventually, though, it is completed in 1885.
Wow.
And it really is, it's Gothic style. And it's really neat to see it up close, all the little details. And I'll show you the date stone that says 1883 when they began construction. And it's just a really neat building that's best admired from closer up.
This is amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people take photographs of this.
Oh my God.
So this is a better view now. You can see if you want to, the date stone is on the right corner there, AD 1883. Just again, the detail on the door, the cross. If you look very at the top on the right, it says Mary Dixon Memorial Chapel, written in her, built in her memory.
Wow.
Upstairs, further up, there's a belfry that that has bells that ring. The stained glass windows. I mean, just again, pillars. It's really something cool.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Wow.
I told you about B. Arthur, but they also had an Emmy nominee, a Rhodes Scholar, all kinds of famous people. I don't know the names. People would ask me, well, who was the Emmy?
Nominee?
I don't know.
Wow.
So here's more of the chapel. Look at the dormers up there and the cupolas just
Those were
rounded. So cool. Yeah.
Very cool. Wow. y'all have to see this in person. It's so cool. Look at this.
Is the 1861 Sturgis Pretzel Factory, the oldest commercial pretzel factory in the nation. Julius Sturgis had a very successful business here. Pretzels, again, because of the Pennsylvania Dutch influence here in our area, people love to eat pretzels.
Yes,
At
we
one
do.
time, there was, in the 1920s, there was about 11 pretzel manufacturers in Lititz, believe it or not. One by one, they went out of business. Sturgis still remains. People from all over the world come and get their picture by the giant pretzel there, just like those folks are doing right now.
They are. Oh my God, that's the cutest.
Hi! Don't mind us.
Sweet. You look great.
Sturgis actually came along and constructed the brick building above where she was on the left. The older
Yeah.
stone buildings is a lot earlier. It's 1783. That was the home and wagon shop of Peter Kreider or Grider. There's a little date stone up there. So when Sturgis came along and bought the property, he put the addition on to the left, and that's basically the walking tour.
So awesome.
Yeah. Hope
Cory.
you learned
Thank
something. And
you.
yeah, of course, my pleasure. Yeah, let's go across the
Yeah.
street. They sell all kinds of pretzels. They have soft pretzels.
Cool.
And, you can take, if you want to take, there's a little factory tour. It's a couple bucks.
my
You can
goodness.
always come back and do that another time.
This
But,
is-
if you've never been to Sturgis, you definitely have to, and I'm sure they'll let you film inside.
Okay.
And it's
I
air
would
conditioned
ask
too.
that.
So
This is so cute stuff. Hi.
it's very busy. It's summertime, of course, so it's bustling.
Look at all these artworks.
That's a local artist, yeah.
Oh my God, this is great. I love that. Oh my God, this is hilarious. I love these.
Is Kurt here today?
He's not here today.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. I'm an original. Oh my God.
They're waiting to take a tour. And then you go in, you see the original ovens. You actually get to roll your own pretzel, like dough. It's cute. Yeah. We have exhibits having to do with Lititz and some amazing clocks that you'll see. Hey guys, this is Kat.
Hi guys.
She
Hi. Nice to meet you.
You too.
She just
Thank
filmed
you.
a walking tour.
It was amazing.
So,
Oh my
it
God.
feels good in here.
It feels so nice in here.
Oh my gosh, she has never had a Wilbur Bud, just so
No,
everyone knows.
I know. It's not something I'm proud of.
Okay, so the Johannes Mueller house is straight ahead. Take a time travel trip back to 1792. All right, head on in.